All right, does that look good? Can everyone see that okay? Thumbs up. Awesome. All right, so my name is Caitlin Maisman, and I'm the outreach coordinator at California Youth Advocacy Network. And today we're going to be talking about how we can really use social media to kind of move beyond education and really just presenting facts and really use it to mobilize either decision makers or specific community members. So things are going to move quickly just for the sake of time, but certainly we are a smaller group. So if you do have questions, please do use the chat. Again, as a reminder, you're not muted, heads up, or raise your hand and we can ask the question as well. So we're going to start with a quick group activity. And then we're going to go into talking about what exactly communications planning is, and specifically what that looks like when we use it for social media advocacy. And then you're going to be broken into either 2 or 3 breakout groups, and you're actually going to build a communications plan. And all become advocacy social media experts. And then we're going to come back and group share and talk about what you've created. So after I've now asked you multiple times to mute yourself, I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and unmute yourself. And we're going to start with a quick this or that. So I'm going to show you a slide with 2 different things on it. And I'd like you to just go ahead and shout out which of the 2 you like more. So this or that. So only pick one. Are we ready? Yes? Feel free to shout out now. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This or that. Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Twitter.
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 None.
Twitter.
Twitter.
I heard a none in there. Okay. So Twitter sounds like tough day for Facebook, huh? Okay. What about Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Facebook.
Instagram.
We heard one lone Facebook fan. Okay, so it sounds like Instagram was more favored there. And what about when we think about video content, YouTube or TikTok?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay, kind of mixed, more mixed there. And when you're looking at content on social media, do you prefer to see videos or pictures?
Pictures.
Pictures.
Videos.
Videos and pictures. One time when I did this, someone said videos of pictures, and I thought that was clever. Okay, next one. And when you were looking at social media, are you mostly doing it on your phone or on some other device like a computer?
Phone.
Computer.
Got one computer there, okay? And when you're looking at this content, do you like to see pictures of real people or do you like to see illustrations? So vectors or cartoons? Do you have a preference?
Illustrations.
Illustrations.
Picture.
Okay, pretty mixed. And do you like those pictures or illustrations to be brightly colored or more dark, sort of muted tones?
Right.
Situation.
Okay, sounded pretty mixed there. And then finally, in terms of kind of the vibe or the feeling, do you want to see posts that are serious, funny, or positive?
Depends on situation.
Mix.
A mix?
Positive.
Positive. Okay. Well done. Give yourselves a round of applause and please mute yourself. So what you did is actually a part of communications planning, and we call this part kind of audience testing, right? So you want to know who you're talking to, the things they care about, the information that they want to see. If I were to do a campaign right now, just from those few questions based on the folks in this room, if you were my community, I already know that I would probably do it on Instagram or TikTok. I'd use bright colors. I may do both illustrations and pictures, and I'd probably have it be funny or serious. So that is actually a step of doing creating a campaign. So well done. So once we've done this, we want to, so let me just move there we go. we want to take that kind of consumer testing or audience testing and put it into what we call a communications plan. And this is something we do at CYAN. So every media campaign or social media campaign we do starts with a communications plan. And what that is really a map to make sure that you are getting the greatest reach with the most engagement for the content that you create. So we actually had a question today from one of the participants who said, you know, is it better to put content on where I know youth will be, or should I do all of the sites? And again, using your tool to really refine who's my audience, where is it going to have the best reach? It's better to have it as specific as possible and have it be targeted versus casting a wide net. So what this does is help you target and funnel through a planning tool. And so when we look at this and what this kind of abstract idea looks like when we talk about advocacy social media, you're going to have 5 parts of this map. So you can call these different things, but usually it's going to be your goal, your audience, your message, your call to action, and then your tactic, so your how. And so we can think of that as kind of like our goal. What is it we want to accomplish? What's our big picture? Whether that's you know, a flavor ban, smoke-free ordinance, whatever that may be, that's going to be your starting place. And then you're going to think about who needs to hear this message, right? Who am I talking to? And then that's when you pull in the questions of not just who I'm talking to, but you want to do a little bit more research and find out the messages that this audience will pay attention to and their preferences for types of messaging. And then you're going to develop a message. And this is something that can be pulled from, say, like the key messages of the conference here, right? So on those 2 topics, you could pull from those key messages, or you can develop them yourself. And that message can be 1 or 2 messages. You can have variations of messages based on the platform. And you're always going to want to pair that message with what we call a call to action. So this is now that we know who we're talking to and we've given them the information we want them to know, this is where we tell them what to do with it. And this is a really important piece because this call to action piece is what moves the campaign from being an educational campaign to a campaign that's advocacy based, right? So whether that's retweeting and tagging a decision maker, whether that's, you know, asking folks to attend a meeting, that's the piece that mobilizes them. And then that final piece there is the social media tactic. That's the creative part. That's how you do it. And again, that's determining what platform, determining the tone and the vibe, if you're going to use bright colors, if it's going to be a video, that's your how. And so why social media is so important, and we've already kind of touched upon this in the general session. Why we use it is because that is one where a lot of our decision makers are. A lot of them have accounts, and there's a way to kind of have that additional public eye to generate momentum, but also it's a way to really engage in a targeted way, right? You can use things like hashtags. You can use things to not just engage communities, but also pull advocates together who are working on the same issue. So it really is a powerful tool for outreach. And when you pair it with that call to action, it really becomes a powerful tool for advocacy to get your ask out there to the right people to mobilize. So we're going to quickly here, for the sake of time, go through each one of the 5 steps in just a little bit more depth before I send you into your breakout rooms to do this yourselves. So again, our starting place, when we think about this in relation to the work we're going to be doing with our culminating event tomorrow and project. So we kind of already have that picked for you, right? So your goal is going to be the specific thing you want to mobilize folks to engage with. So for the sake of our conference, right, it's going to be the smoke-free housing ordinance or the flavored tobacco ordinance. So that's an easy number 1, right? So you've got a choice between the 2 for your goal. But when you are working on other issues in your coalition, of course, they'll be broader than this. And then that second point there is your target audience. So this is the who are we talking to? So this is mostly going to fall in, again, for the sake of this exercise, into two buckets. So either community members, so this could be youth, so your peers, parents, a specific neighborhood or group of people living in a shared housing complex. Or it could be decision makers, so city council members, tribal council members, really those folks who will be making the decision that you want to call out and reach out to. And then again, when we think back to that this or that activity, you want to think about, as you're selecting this audience, what you know about them, right? So where they get their information is going to determine the best site to place your campaign on, and the type of information they pay attention to. So more often than not, young people are on TikTok or are looking at video content. My mom, probably not. So being sure you're selective about the platform, but also the type of media. And then also think about things like values. What's important to them? Is it family? Is it health and safety? Is it a safe community? You can use all of those values to help also craft what we call our key messages. And this is kind of like the meat and potatoes. And this is what we want people to know. So this is, what is the most important thing that we want people to know about our goal? But also, we need to think about how we can package it so they'll actually pay attention to it. So we have a lot of things we want to say about second and third hand smoke or about flavors, but we need to make sure we're doing that and saying it in a way that people actually want to pay attention to, right? So if it's like, think about yourself on social media. If it's a post with tons of text or like dark colors and scary facts, you're probably not going to look at it. So we want to make sure we package it strategically, and that's why we communication plan. And then also, we always want to be thinking, especially when we're doing an advocacy campaign, because again, that's what creates that direct engagement, what we want them to do with that. And that is our call to action. And so some examples of that call to action piece, which again is what we want our audience to do. So if we're talking to a community member, it could be something like resharing your campaign media, retweeting it and tagging a decision maker. Maybe it's sharing a personal story. We do that a lot with tobacco, how it's directly impacting you in the community. Maybe it's asking them to attend a city council meeting. And then with decision makers, a lot of times we think, oh, let's just tag them and kind of call them out, like, support this ordinance or learn more about how tobacco is impacting our community. But you can also make other asks. You can say, you can invite them to a coalition meeting. You can send them materials to learn about something and then ask them to meet with you. So it doesn't just kind of have to be a tag them. There can be other pieces with that engagement. And you want to make sure that you're being very clear and direct about what your ask is, but also make it accessible, right? So think about yourself. If you say like, learn more about this, make sure you're actually linking it in the bio. Make sure you're removing any obstacles that could make it difficult to accomplish that ask. And then your social media tactics is the how we do it, right? So again, thinking about the this or that we did. Thinking about if it's, the audience is best suited for a video or digital post. If it's best placement is on Instagram or Facebook. Again, I would probably say more adults and parents are on Facebook. So if that was the target audience, we'd probably want to do some materials that were on Facebook. Is it Twitter? Are we doing more direct calling out and linking that way? And thinking about things like how many posts, how many messages, are we going to use a unique hashtag? And then sort of the analytics of it, right? So how long is this going to run for? How often will I post it? Who will post it? Who's going to create the material? So this is the how. Before I jump into two examples, do we have any questions on any of these pieces? Thumbs up, everybody's good? Okay. So this is this always cracks me up, the putting it all together. So I'm going to just quickly go through this for the sake of time, but you can see each of the 5 steps there in the planning phase. So step 1, again, we've given you the goal here. So this would be if you were working to pass a smoke-free housing ordinance. And your target audience is a decision maker. And the message that you want to convey is that second and third hand smoke within housing hurts all life within and around the home or housing complex. And this is I lifted this exactly from our key messages, but I do want to say that doesn't need to necessarily be verbatim in your social media campaign. You want to think about how to package it for the audience. So for a youth audience, that's probably not very engaging or something that would get their attention. So you'll want to work on kind of crafting that too. And then the call to action, and this is in quotes because this can be text you put with it. An example here would be something like, learn about the impact second and third hand smoke are having on our community. Link in bio, make sure you do it. And commit to keeping our community healthy by supporting the ordinance for smoke-free housing. So again, it's providing education and making an ask. Educate yourself a little bit more and commit to keep our community safe. And then in terms of the tactic, this would be a 3 to 5 post campaign with information on how that indoor smoking is impacting this could be the community, this could be statistics on Facebook and Twitter, posting it every day, tagging a city council member, tweeting directly, and then again, linking out to a fact sheet with stats and stories. And then this is an example of the same goal, but with a different audience. So this is for youth living in shared housing or multi-unit housing. Again, with a message that indoor smoking and the exposure to second and third hand smoke presents negative health outcomes due to the exposure in housing. Again, you wouldn't necessarily like put that on a post verbatim, so you'd want to craft that message so that young people will engage with it. And the call to action here is share your story living in an environment where smoking isn't banned and tag council member blank. Be sure to use keep me healthy and MUH when you share. So this is really branding that, right? So also now community members are going to see what other folks around them are also saying about the impacts of tobacco and will hopefully further mobilize engagement between them. And then the tactic here, so the how, was creating an Instagram campaign with posts sharing again, personal stories from folks about the impact of indoor smoking with a unique hashtag when resharing and tagging council members directly. All right, so now you get to do this. It's your turn. So I'm going to go ahead and